Take the blue pill and the story end. You wake up in your bed tomorrow and believe whatever you want to believe. If you choose the red pill, continue watching the video and I will show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. Don't forget, all I am offering you is the truth.
And this can be evidenced by these babies. So let me understand something. These are the modern means of transportation. These are the roads. And this is the post office. Am I understanding this correctly? Yes, this is what we are expected to believe about America. That this is merely the post office in the year 1900 in Chicago. They apparently take mail very seriously. But really it boggles the mind. How did the material even get here? How was it even constructed and why? But what is the purpose of having such an amazing post office with an antenna on the top? When you rule out the impossible, what's left, no matter how unlikely or ridiculous we have to go with? It's impossible for us to have built this. Therefore, we did not construct this. Not with those tools, not in that era. Demonstrably impossible. In the year 1900, even to have the budget and the ability and the desire and the necessity to create something so ridiculously huge. It's impossible. These mansions in New York, same story. Impossible. Even here, fast forwarding 70 years, in 1960, this is a ridiculous building. Though others have come later that seem taller, they are much less remarkable, much less ornate. These are adorned with angels and Torahs, wreaths of eternity. It's unfathomable to think that early Americans needed this just simply for a federal courthouse, as it later became. Library of Congress, the year is 1900. And I'm to believe that we built this to be a library. Well, then what happened to us? Either I'm expected to believe that we were capable of this and now we're not. Maybe. But more likely is, we didn't build this at all. A post office in New York. Very similar. Why? How? Why didn't we do it again? And so it goes. All across the country. You see this. We're told these aren't castles. These aren't monasteries or temples. These are post offices. These are stock exchanges. These are music academies. These are bus stations. And I don't believe it. The ruins in Europe that look like this will last thousands of years. We tear these down. Why? Are we creating something better? Have we got a new trick up our sleeve? We're gonna outdo these old things? I don't think so. I don't think we can. I think the idea is to eventually hide this history. Hide as much of it as you can. Like, this is destroyed. This is in New Jersey. It was in New Jersey. Destroyed. Ah, yes, a very believable monument for Civil War soldiers in Maryland, with a crappy little font hacked into the base of this. Atlantic City, of course. These Semitic sound wave patterns are not suspicious, nor is the front yard full of sculptures. This is just an everyday scene in Atlantic City in 1904. This is not a castle. No, you're a fool to believe so. No, this is an armory in Boston. We don't have castles. We have armories. We don't know how to build castles. Oh, well, of course we built a basement. Surely if you were making an incredibly complex building of stone block and gigantic proportions, well, surely you would dig a basement and then put windows in it, floor level. Because in case it rains or floods or anything, you want to make sure that you compromise the integrity of the structure as soon as possible. Not just one basement, not just one building. All buildings must be compromised in such a way. We didn't build these, but somebody did. And why don't we know who that somebody is? It wasn't these clowns. Do you see the contrast? Do you see the current capabilities in other technological departments versus the technical skill and ability that you would need to construct this? Much less the money, the necessity must gather the function. Certainly this served up a function at some point, didn't it? You would think so. These antennas. This is not an Arc de Triomphe. This is a train station. Everyone knows that. We don't have those here in America. Those wheels brought the material to make this. And if you believe this still, I think you need to reconsider. Now, I understand that shatters everything. That will cause you to doubt everything. Well, if the shoe fits, I guess the choice to know the truth is yours. But personally, I find it odd that we've all been lied to. Who built these? I understand this is a bank now in Buffalo, but I can't imagine the possibility that this was constructed in the 1890s by these people. We'll get to you another time. Here's another bank that defies all logic. It looks like the majority of people don't even have cars. I don't even think cars were invented yet. This is like 1890. So we've regressed so hard. Or more likely, people came along later and chiseled their name into this. churches, claimed it for their own. We are told, after all, that all the founding members of the country practiced Freemasonry. Perhaps that's a little bit different meaning than what we've been led to believe. What do you think? Think it seems reasonable to assume that these people built this? Put the eagle on everything and the phoenix. Speaking of phoenix, pure and healthy beverage. Yeah, same people falling for this. You're gonna turn around and blow your mind. Build this, huh? It's not possible. This is a colorized version of that same bank, looking equally as ludicrous. What came first, the rail or the church? Or the castle, I mean. Churches don't need to be like this. You wouldn't build a church after you put this rail here. It's not this close. It's ridiculous. This is old. Very old. As old as the ones in Europe. Makes you wonder if they're being lied to as well. After all, there are paintings in Europe with just like this. Little mules next to ridiculous castles. Oh, I'm sorry, post offices. Post offices. My bad, Sacramento. Post office. Yeah, no. All this. This looks completely sunken in to the ground. In order to be symmetrical, which clearly these people know about symmetry, this needs to go down at least another, here, or the third, if this even makes sense. And then that would explain why these windows are so low, wouldn't it? It would appear that something happened here, some event, which drove people away, wiped them out, I don't know. And then we come along, and I don't say we, I guess Columbus or whoever, who knows what's true anymore. They come along and they move right in and set up shop, and well, this is the theater. Well, here's the post office, and this here's the government library, and this is where I'm gonna sleep. And what about you guys? And now let's bring a bunch of immigrants here and tell we built all this. We're pretty incredible. Pump them all up with debt and with patriotism. Perfect slaves. Use them to do our dirty work. Anytime we need something done around the world to further our interests, we just pump them full of another story about someone from far away doing something horrible. We gotta go save them. It'll work for a while. One day it might catch on, but by then hopefully we'll destroy all the literature and all the books and all the references and they'll never know. Whew. They almost got away with it. This is the Church of Christ Scientist in Boston. Now, forgive me, but that's possibly the dumbest name for a religion I've ever heard. Christ Scientist? What does that even mean? As if Christ and scientists are bed buddies today. Right? Getting right along, huh? The believers of Christ are homies with the believers of scientists. They see eye to eye on everything, from what I understand. Now, if this were in Turkey or Pakistan, you'd call it a mosque. If it were in France, you'd probably remove this top piece and you'd call it a castle or a chateau. Well, this is America, so it's a church. Could be a Capitol building, but the Capitol building was already taken. It's the best building. Starting to see a pattern. This is Indiana. Interesting. City Hall. And I would pay more attention to this, except for there's a Palace of Suites right here. Oh my god. Richmond, Virginia. Well, who knew? And look at them boys done fucked around and constructed. Which is it? Log cabins and adobe huts and stagecoaches? Or this? Because they can't exist at the same time. So which is the lie? Well, since these are here, I'm gonna assume all the rest is a lie. Maybe that's why they say these cities are founded by, or the founders, or found dead. Most of these buildings, they don't claim they were constructed, they say they're designed, or designated perhaps, or erected. Maybe what they mean is resurrected. You see, the systems around us they're designed to mock us, to inform us of what's really going on without us picking up on it. It's maddening to watch in politics, insulting really. And this is a whole new level of it. I have studied history with a passion. I wanted to rebel against this and say, this is no way. No way all of that was a waste. It wasn't. It just was fiction, not history. This is in Connecticut, by the way. Exactly what I picture when I think of Connecticut. Here's another building in Baltimore, 1905. Looking very modern until you see this. And I don't even understand what's going on here. I thought that this would be the water, but then what is this down here? Like, what is this? Looks like subterranean levels of buildings down here. Is this why there's a city under every city? Tunnels under every city and capital, university? Is this why they claim they raised the street levels up in Chicago and Seattle and all these places, raised it up, leaving a subterranean floor? Is it already always there? It's underneath. It's what the basements are. That seems far too clean of a flood. The first or second floor of like all these old buildings around the same time period. Seems like they're hiding something that was down there, covering something up they don't want us to have. I imagine it would benefit our lives if that's what they're trying to cover up. But the real amazing part is the ability, the size of the lie, that they could get away with it, that they could pull off such a massive deception. It's really ingenious and it's terrifying. Because what else? What else is a lie? If everything we know about ourselves is a lie, who are we? What are we really capable of? Why are we here? And this gives a whole new meaning to everything. And I don't think that I can ever go back. You can't unsee it. You guys think this is normal for this building to exist? And I just don't know what to tell you. I guess keep on. You don't think that this is some old technology? I don't know. This isn't suspicious to anybody, huh? In America, except the first. Now, where these people went, I don't know. But they obviously disappeared sometime in the 1800s. Now, this is Chicago. Anyone seen Chicago lately? Does it look like this? Does it look better than this? I don't think anything looks better than this. This, to me, looks like as most of a paradise kind of place that you can ever imagine. Normally, I feel like you go outside, you go to the shoreline, you go to see things of beauty like this. I feel like you could come here every day and just feel inspired and alive and great. This is what a city should look like. Of course, they destroyed all this. They destroyed all this except for this building over here. I think they call it the Art Museum, and they claim that this is all that was made with cheap materials, made to be destroyed. And really, made to be destroyed, huh? Well, even if you made this on cake frosting, it'd be an amazing feat. But that's just a lie. You didn't make this out of hemp and plaster. The hell out of here. This was the destruction of the old world in our faces. A reintroduction of specific technology that they wanted to tell us about. A suppression of the ones they couldn't figure out how to make money off of. And everybody's dressed here to go to a funeral. Their own funeral. Funeral of an old world. And whether or not they knew it, I doubt they did. When hamburgers are 5 cents, and you can buy a house for $5,000 and Chicago looks like this. Why would you be suspicious about anything? I mean, actually, that's a good reason to be suspicious about everything, but clearly it wasn't really the way people thought, But something ain't right. We know that now. And really, look at this. This is the stuff they sold. Cigars, credit. Like Pleasure Islands, like Pinocchio. Just, hey, come on in, boys. Take whatever you can. And fucking shoot every buffalo. Shit, you got some people on your land that lives there already? Whatever. Drop a deed. Chase them out. Get some rifles. Get a lot of guys. Get them out of here. Those people living in the hills, been there for thousands of years, fuck them. Manifest destiny. Give me $5 and you can have a piece of paper that says that land's yours. Go deal with it. What a racket. What a joke that they were roped into. And really, this is the end. This is how it works out. All those fires in the 1800s. This looks suspiciously like those Civil War photos have like stuff piled up like, see, I told you we're building this. You trying to act like this is you constructing this? Get the fuck out of here. Who builds like that? Crumb by crumb, scattering shit everywhere. No, this has been destroyed. They definitely didn't rebuild it. Not like that. This is Hotel Brunswick in Boston. Built by these little pilgrims down here. Come on, Mary, grab a shovel. We're gonna build a hotel. We're gonna make it lovely. We're gonna make it so lovely. In 120 years, they'll look at it and be like, how'd they do that? And they'll scratch their butts and they'll say, we can't even do that now. And lo and behold, here we are. As if these doorways aren't supposed to be taller. This is the hotel in Boston as well. Not a castle, you idiots. There are no castles here in America. This is a hotel. Stupid. And what do we have here? Another 1905 hotel. Nobody here. Very, very believable that they would know how and they would need to make something like this. Like this. Now, what exactly is the point of this? What's missing? Surely you don't just build this little, housing on hundreds and hundreds of buildings that serves no purpose. What's the point of the domes? The antennas? Wait a second. Earlier, we saw this in the Czech Republic. We were told this was a European ruin. How does one exist in Boston? That's impossible. Yeah, this architecture was just so that you could put a massive fucking cigar sign on the side of it. This is in Jacksonville, 1904. Wonder what those could be. Certainly could be some sort of antenna. Transmitter, could they? I mean, look at the telephone pole, okay, that we're putting up. Look at the difference between this rustic fucking... It still has knobs on it from the branches. It's not even... This is the telephone pole. But you're gonna say that you built this behind it. The same people built this rotten ass telephone pole. It's literally just wood, barely. And what a joke. Look at this amazing building. Looks like but we're to believe that this belongs to Keith. Keith's with this shitty ass sign. And if this isn't a battery, like a lantern, I don't know what it is. This is Lexington, Kentucky. It's clear the way they brought us here. What they're really trying to sell us on is this. pump them full of this, and then they'll be too stupid to realize. This is Ellis Island, off the shoreline of New York. It's gone now. I'm not sure why. It's pretty incredible. This is New Jersey, and this is gone. I don't know what's missing from these. I don't know what it was originally. Even though it's very ornate, it looks somewhat gutted. And it's gone. Now why? Who would tear that down? In Europe, they last thousands of years. We can't make them last a few hundred? What kind of world was this? You can bury your head in the sand on this if you want. But someday, you're gonna have to face it. You've been lied to. Proof is everywhere. Everywhere you go. Any building built early 1900s or earlier, you're gonna see it. The choice to know is yours. This world is not what they tell us. Now here's this one. Well, where is it? Well, now you don't know, do you? Before you might have been like, that's clearly Europe. And yeah, it is. This is in the UK. I don't see much of a difference. How about this one? Well, this is Millard Fillmore's house. It's not a castle. Oh shit. Take that sign down. How about this one? This is what we're calling a train station. I'm guessing that all this dirt was pushed out of the way for this. Here's a proper castle with a moat. Look at that. A moat and a drawbridge and a castle. Now this is a castle. This is what I'm talking about. This is that old world stuff. This is what I'm talking about. This is in Minneapolis. That's right. Minneapolis. The city hall. A castle with a moat. Or a city hall building with a basement. You run with whatever story fits your version of history, I guess. But then there's this. You know, the actual photographs of cities underneath cities. Underneath Indianapolis here, you have, Native American ruins? No. That's a mystery. You see, anytime you run into something that goes along with the narrative, it's history. Anytime you run into something that defies the narrative, it's a mystery. And there it shall remain. A mystery. I would argue that it's no longer a mystery if you discover it. I think it means that the history is wrong and the mystery is more accurate, since it's at least adaptable. But no, they're never going to teach anyone about this. Never. Why would they? MIT building, Montana, 1891. Nashville. Who would have thought? Looked like Gondor. This here's New Orleans. Yep, horse and buggy. And this totally checks out. You know, I would like to believe that the pioneers had magic powers, that they were content with little boxes on little wheels like this, but they were secretly, their superpower was in architecture, and they construct the most magnificent, amazing buildings in the whole world. They lasted forever, and they're highly complex and highly ornate. We couldn't even copy them today if we tried. That was their superpower. And I'm talking about early New York. This photograph's from 1890, and if you think that could possibly be true, I'm afraid it's you that believe in crazy things. I'm of a much more sound mind, and I'm gonna go ahead and say that that's impossible. There are no castles in America. This is a tabernacle. How dare you confuse that with a castle? You know, temple? That's a theater, clearly. What? That ain't no. Do you see the sheer ridiculous idea that this building can be made by the people who are riding in a horse and buggy? Ludicrous. This is North Carolina. Just what I expected to see. This is Norway. Norway, huh? I would have thought by now that you were going to show me someplace in Minnesota. But there's no difference, is there? Only the stories were told. Maybe theirs is fake too. This ain't no damn castle. Why, this here's a New York armory. We always build them like that. Is that so? Well, since you say though, it must be. Since you know, the powers that be are so fond of telling us the truth. I mean, why would I doubt anything that the government said? Did you drop off the latest bricks? I sure did. Cool. We're just gonna build a little thing here. Thanks for your help. Just a little thing here. Just a little more. I'll put another thing on it. On the top. Dome, please. Yes, another dome. Okay, sweet. Alright, now pole. Yeah. I think we'll be done. If you believe this story, if you think that we built these, yeah, you'll believe anything. This is in Ohio. This is an old asylum. We locked people in who were political dissidents. Basically, this is your home, Trump supporters. And the early Americans were fond of worshipping pagan gods, whom they spent much time constructing and erecting on the top of their very ornate and complex buildings, of which they are proud of and took great joy. This is them. This is their legacy. Behold the beauty, far beyond anything Rome ever could produce. And we're told it's an insurance building. The old State House, complete with the old statues of unicorns. as befitting a normal, respectable establishment. Or how about this one? Of course there's amazing statues of topless women. This is New Orleans after all. I mean, are they making things like this today? No. We get boxes. Shit drywall boxes. And no one thinks this is interesting, huh? No one thinks that this is suspicious. Everyone still thinks that we are progressing, huh? Even after this stares them in the face. This is the Pabst Building in Milwaukee. Pabst Building in Milwaukee. Do you get it yet? This is Penn Station, New York, which they tore down for being too dirty. Tore this down. Have you seen New York? Do you think they're really concerned about buildings being dirty? Or do they realize how ridiculous this is? Just the existence of this it defies everything that they've ever told us about who we are. And they can't have that. The Academy of Fine Arts. Not fine font. No. Chisel font. Crappy. Unlike the rest of this amazing building, we outsourced the sign maker. Philadelphia is a shithole today. My, how far they've fallen. If this was once something they just threw up in a few years. Not possible. This is the legacy. This is what they brought. This is what they promised. This is what they gave us. They are selling us death, distraction, while they destroy who we were and what we were capable of. The phoenix or the eagle? Which is it? This is not just Happy in America. It's worldwide. This is just the country I know best. This is just the history I was told. It doesn't jive. Can't see it even though you're in it every day until someone just snaps you from the... So you don't have to go to Europe to see ruins. To see ridiculous architecture made by people that are long gone. We need to figure out who we are and claim this land. I mean, all over the world. Claim our rightful place and take it back. Because if we can create this without power tools, maybe we're looking at power wrong. If we can make things like this with a different kind of energy, one that's perhaps wireless, as evidenced by this photograph here in 1890, San Francisco, then I think all we have to do is figure out who exactly benefits from us not knowing that. And there's a lot more of us than them. It's just unbelievable. South Station in Boston again with this phoenix here. It's unbelievable, y'all. Sky trains in 1905. Man. Castle in the middle of your city. I'm looking at you, Buffalo. I'm looking at you, Atlantic City. I'm looking at you, Symphony Hall, Boston. Syracuse, huh? Syracuse, 1904. Give me a break. Temple of Commerce, Boston, 1906. This is Galveston, Texas, in 1890. Galveston, Texas. Now this is gone. Completely gone. Just a sandy beach. Why? Why? Because this doesn't look like something cowboys build. This looks like something out of the distant past. Which raises so many questions. Is the past even that distant? And are those people any different from us across the sea in any direction? They can lie about every structure in America and the entire history of the second largest nation in the world. They can convince fucking 350 million people of a lie. Unbelievable, man. I've looked at these pictures for years now, and I can't get over it. Detroit, 1909. Look at Detroit today and tell me you think we're making progress. You're right. It's actually happening. They're destroying them, building a new one. Fine, build a new one. Build a new one that looks like this. They can't do it. They can build these shit signs. They can put flags on antennas and pretend that's what they're for. They can pretend this is a basement and it's intentional. They can pretend all they want. By Earth, I'll be built. The old stone walls, the uninhabited castles, the craggy ruins bound together by ivy. Such grandeur in the old world. Such depth. Such history. Alas, I being from the United States, I am told that this is the new world, lacking the complex, ancient, scarred and tortured from year after year of conflict, conquered and reconquered. Many Americans travel far to set their eyes on the storied, rich, cultural landmarks like Turkey, Spain, Serbia, Romania, Scotland, Portugal, Hungary, the Czech Republic, with buildings and layouts that boggle the mind, their construction a complete mystery, the craftsmanship unparalleled, and we are told we have nothing on this scale in the New World. Nothing from these time periods, for everything in America is new, built in a flurry of activity, due to labor from the hardiest men the world has ever seen. A new world, a new way. But then one day, you wake up and discover you're looking at a Princess Castle in New York City. And the year's 1890. And you wonder, what's this? Could this be a special custom commission for some well-traveled New York resident with loads of cash? Someone who wanted to bring a bit of their travels home? Paid exorbitant fees to have such a building constructed here in New York in such an early period? Perhaps. But then what's this? Another castle? Of amazing proportions. Built when? In the 1800s? With mules, donkeys, with a few hundred men who arrived by stagecoach? How could this be? And you're told, no, this is not a castle. This is a temple. Yes. You're in Utah, boy. There are no castles here. But, do my eyes betray me? How is this possible? And this, in Detroit. Another one. In Detroit? And the year 1890? How can this be? Why on earth? How did Detroit have this in such an early stage? Detroit is a industrial wasteland. And this is a castle. No, you fool. This is simply a bicycle store. Go big or go home. That's how Detroit rolls. Curiouser and curiouser. And the show goes on. Place after place. New Jersey, Boston, Chicago, Buffalo, Richmond, Memphis, and on and on and on and on and on. And then you're faced with reality. Indeed, it would seem impossible to build something like this in 1890. Even if the desire was there, how could it be constructed? With the tools at their disposal, which at this point is a rather paltry list. Things like the paper towel, toilet paper, and the paper clip, and the clothespin, and the rotary hand drill. Jeans, zippers, and bottle caps were being invented for the first time, we're told. We don't have power tools, and only for some. I have been forced into a position in the world where I have to, using logic and reason and patterns and observation and patterns and research and exploration and etc. Put the pieces of the puzzle of this world together in a way that is meaningful for me, or at least a way in which I can sort of forge a path forward by looking back and trying to see what exactly we came from, as we all do as people. Now, many people simply trust the authority, as I did, as nearly everyone has. And until that authority, like a relationship, lets you down, until that authority repeatedly is caught in a lie, it should hold your trust. Now, in today's era of blatant dishonesty, provable, in your face, blasted from the highest tower, pasted on every corner, that type of transparent manipulation, the kind that they admit to repeatedly, eventually will force you in a position where you no longer trust institutions. For example, when you see Merriam-Webster catering their word of the day on Twitter to taking part in some political debate clearly on one side, or using their word of the day to sort of mock and deride one particular political party, you realize that this is no longer a neutral institution. When Merriam-Webster will change the definition of words to cater to the particular viewpoint right before your eyes, you can no longer trust these institutions. And once that circle of bullshit expands and you watch one by one these dominoes fall, if you're anything like me, and if you actually want the truth, you will look elsewhere. You won't find it there. And so due to some of the machinations of the powers that be, I've come to the opinion, to be clear, this is an opinion, that there was a civilization that has been vanished from our history books less than a century ago. However, the evidence of it is everywhere. I believe that this civilization dominated technology differently, not necessarily more advanced than us, but differently, more favorable towards the harmonious relationship with the earth. I believe it used different building materials, and they were masters of masonry, concrete, brick, and they are visible. These gigantic iron glass structures, the domes, the metal needles, they're present on every continent. In my opinion, they had a part to play in distributing free atmospheric energy everywhere. Some of it's still in operation, some of the towers, some of the railway stations, but most of it has been destroyed or imprisoned, and they introduced old, crappier technology like cables and wires. The magnetic energy has been completely downplayed, the periodic table of elements has been depleted, and all historical documents have been heavily edited, original documents destroyed, passed down over the years, transcribed by monks who are prone to error, and personal bias, all the things that you would say would make the Bible, or any holy book, impossible to rely on. Well, we unfortunately received all of our historical documents the same exact way. So if you plan, let's go do that across the board. If we're following, some sort of pattern of logic. All this architecture that they call Moorish revival, or Islamic, or colonial, or medieval, or Baroque, or Gothic, or Beaux Arts, or eclectic, or Renaissance, Palladian, or Richardsonian Romanesque, or Chicago School, or Victorian, or Gothic. These are labels, as they believe that they are style to hide the old and true function of what they were. The columns, the arches, the rose windows, the ornaments, the iron, the statues, the towers, the domes. There are too many patterns that show themselves on too many cities, on too many continents. But they all share similar, if not exactly the same design patterns. And I believe these people were either purged or left around the time the Romans came on the scene, which was not thousands of years ago. Now, evidence of this appears on many maps, and this is a subject that is massive and sprawling. I only give you this preface to show that this is the prism through which I'm looking at one particular distinct feature of one style of building and showcase its presence throughout the world. And what I believe is a testament to not this style, because I don't believe people are stylistically the same. Homes don't look the same in Africa as they do in China or America. Therefore, the fact that these exist everywhere, to me, in my mind, is a testament to the functionality of it. That it provides a function. Power plants look like power plants everywhere you go. Telephone lines look like telephone lines. Radio antennas look like radio antennas. At university, look that we find in technology. I'm applying that to what we see in old architecture. So I believe this is a functional thing. And this series is going to focus on one particular feature. I did once recently that was about the knob-like protrusions that are often seen on many cathedrals that are very similar to power stations. Well, and this, again, one very limited scope. And what the idea is not that this proves everything that I've said. Not that it proves anything. It's just evidence. It just makes you wonder why certain things are everywhere in the world. And since I've immersed myself in this stuff for several years, I couldn't possibly convince anyone who hasn't seen it themselves. So this is a display of one particular little feature. And not being a master in the various glossaries and terms of all the various architectural features, I've just come to calling this the four-pronged castle tower. Now, this is one of about 80 different features that I have designated to be of interest. Many places I found dozens of examples. So I'm not going to show every single example everywhere. While I do possess those photographs and there are evidence out there, this is just to show you a cursory look at the widespread use of this architectural feature. And you can form your own conclusion as to whether or not it's bizarre. So this is what we're looking at. This four-pronged castle tower. Yes, you can build towers in a limited amount of shapes. Squares, rectangles, ovals, octagons, decagons, pentagons, whatever. So yes, certainly having anything that's going to be like a parallelogram or anything that's going to have four corners, it wouldn't seem that unnatural to have protrusions on each of those corners. But the similarities in the structure, the size, the diameter of these, in my mind, make it very suspicious. We'll start here. Alabama. This university in Alabama, which for some reason has a structure like this, looking like an old school castle. And many of the times you'll find at this peak, this tower exists with a peak inside of the four walls here, peak that extends up here. But the four prongs are still visible, intact. Personally, I believe that they serve some function. Maybe something else going on there. Now we jump to Angola. From Alabama to Angola, and you have the same four prongs here. Now you may say, oh, well, that's because they built churches that look like that. I would argue that technically, you don't need this to worship God. You don't need this for any reason. So why would all churches need to feel they need to adhere to this standard? Not only that, but these buildings are remarkable to build. I doubt these roaming missionaries had the capability and the material and the manpower to build such things hundreds of years ago. It seems like quite an undertaking. Thirdly, I will add that you often see this red and white striped motif throughout them, which seems sort of odd, sort of toy-like. And it's worth to keep in mind that still to this day, the red and white stripe is used as radio towers are often red and white striped to indicate that they're a power station of some sort. This isn't to convince you of anything, just to show you stuff you may have never seen. You could form your own opinion. This one's in Australia, quite a jump from the others. There are several here in Australia. There's actually dozens and dozens. But they vary in style. They're not built from the same blueprint, clearly. And this one has a smaller tower next to it. It's a different color, different material as this one. But I'm just pointing out that it would appear that if this was everywhere in the world for hundreds and hundreds of years, they tell us these were built, then that would imply that there is some sort of communication happening all across the world at the same time. It would imply that some of this construction predates the dates we're given in America, especially. You have another one with different type of prong, this one looking even more electric, and this is in Australia as well. And just to show you that, so that you can see that the various places we have many different styles of church, but yet the same four-pronged castle tower remains. And this one is in Belgium. You can see this one here, but you've also got this one over here. And this would be the example of one with a larger steeple or pyramid in the middle of it. Not sure if they all had this at one point and a lot of them were just removed, or this is something that came later that maybe enhances the effect of this. I don't know. This one is also in Belgium. I just included it because it is just such an impressive building. You can see this has some sort of bar that runs all the way down to the floor. And oftentimes what you'll find is that they have these sort of rebar all the way down into the basement. No one's really sure why. At least they won't admit to it. Here you have one in Benin, very small, little known country. And this one almost seems as if it were an imitation of style versus function. Like they built it because they thought that they should. And I'm not ruling that out as a possibility for many of these. Obviously, people will emulate styles that they like. This one is in Bermuda. Quite a jump to have this out here in Bermuda. The same features. This one is in Botswana. Built in these pictures from like 1905. You can still see four prongs here on what's kind of a relatively simple, unornamented building. This one is in Brazil. It is one of hundreds in Brazil, not always on a church, as you can tell. Some of them on embassies and castles and towers. And this one is in Brazil as well, a very different style. This one is in Sacramento, California. Though this one is a post office, they tell us. Just a post office. This should give you an idea of what the transportation was like for the day. If you believe that all the material here that was used to construct this was carted and lifted by wheels like this and beasts of labor like this, well, you might want to re-examine that. This one is in Cameroon, one of the most poorest parts of the continent. This obviously is Canada. These are made of what so look like a copper alloy. Also in Canada, also in Canada, also in Canada. This one is in the Canary Islands. That's right, at the coast of Africa. And it's difficult to tell probably unless you have this in very high resolution, but there are four taller prongs all around this vise with another interior piece here. Here you have Cape Verde, another one of the very, very poor places in Africa. This is from China, and you can tell stylistically, even by dress, that they are not European influenced at all. Tell by the nature of these buildings here, these flared tips. You find these almost nowhere, maybe in Norway, but yet same feature. This is in Colombia and Connecticut. Cyprus, the island of Cyprus, dozens of examples there. This is Washington, D.C. This one is in Denmark, literally hundreds in Denmark, made of red brick. This is obviously the example with a very lofty steeple inside. The Dominican Republic also features this four-pronged castle tower. Ecuador, El Salvador. Hard to see with that steeple built in between them, but they are there. England, of course, and there are thousands in England. I'm not kidding. A handful from here. This is Equatorial Guinea in Africa. This lower one even has four here, with this bell tower constructed in the middle of it. Estonia. This is also Estonia. All these countries, these people that hate each other over souls, get warred for years. Stylistically, they all want to be the same? I think not. This is also in Estonia. Here you have one in Estonia that's very different, more akin to the one in Alabama. This is the island of Fiji. Finland. Hundreds in Finland. This also in Finland. And these are kind of interesting because it looks almost like these little caps were put over, or covers over all of it, except for the metal tips. France, of course. No shortage of these in France, actually. They are in abundance. By the hundreds, if not thousands. This being another example, the size and the scale of a lot of these is just ridiculous. Here's a lighthouse in France, even, that has this feature. which there are many of those. Another French variation, Germany. Well, this is a bit of a poor example. There are no shortage of these in Germany. I should have picked a different picture for Germany, but you get the idea. This is in Ghana, Africa. You'll note the actual radio tower here, modern radio tower I should say, and also the red and white nature of the building, implying that perhaps it served a different purpose at one point in its evolution. Here's also one in Ghana, made of brick that's been painted. This is Hawaii, Honolulu, Honduras, Iowa, Iceland, Illinois, also Illinois, India, also India. Very standing out, red and white, in my mind. This is another example in India, of which there are hundreds and hundreds. And this is another example in India. Indonesia, Ireland, another place with literally hundreds of examples. Here'd be another one. Italy, of which you can imagine how many there would be in Italy. Here's another much older one we're told in Italy, with the same feature. Another one in Italy. Japan making them too. Interesting. They were so set apart, so different. This is Kansas to Japan to Fiji to Botswana to Latvia. And this one being occupied by an amazing nest here. It's hilarious. This is also Latvia, sans nest. Lebanon even getting in on the game. Look at that, even Lebanon. This is another example, or at least in the daytime. Lithuania. Note the color as well. This is also Lithuania. And as the caption shows, Massachusetts. This being a little bit of a better example than the other prior. And there's no difference in this and then any castle anywhere in the world. This is the island of Madagascar in Africa. This is another one in Madagascar, just buried in a neighborhood I happened to see. This one is in Malawi. This one is in Malta. These two, I should say. And there are hundreds in Malta. This being another example. Mauritania, one of the poorest places in Africa. Michigan, and also Michigan. I'm sorry, this is Mississippi. This is Michigan. This is Myanmar in Southeast Asia. Clearly, Norway, you can see, New York. Dozens upon dozens of them in New York, all across the state. This also being from New York. This is Ohio, Pennsylvania. This is Pakistan, and you see the four here on this wider tower, but also the four here in this inner tower, and probably four on the courtyard as well. Two being would have been behind us. This is also Pakistan. Even on these smaller ones on the side, you have the four, and on this larger one as well. Panama, Paraguay, also Paraguay, also Paraguay. This is their capital building. Peru, see in these here, they built domes in between theirs, which is not uncommon. Not very common in South America, but honestly, all these styles are transplanted all across every continent. There's no difference. No difference. Anywhere you go. Here's Poland. You can see they've got here, and then back in the distance, this other building also possessing those that we're told are just styles. Magnificent castle in Portugal. Also in Portugal, this having the same four prongs and all of its little towers. Also in Portugal, and Rhode Island. Rhode Island. Very strange building to be in Rhode Island in the first place. Especially as it looks identical to this one in Romania, which also happens to be red and white stripe. How about that? Almost as if there's a pattern developing somewhere, but you know what? I'll let you come to that conclusion. This is also in Romania. This is in Russia. You can imagine how many hundreds are in Russia. Often in Russia, like you'll see these golden dome tops. You'll see if you critical eye, you can see in this square top towers, you will find those. Often kind of the hidden there. Saudi Arabia. I wouldn't expect them to have the same sort of style as anyone else, would you? Scotland, of which there are hundreds of these. Also Scotland. This, Serbia getting in on the action. All these look, in my mind, they're all built the same era. Like, they look like the same material, pretty much. Of course, no. Some of them are built in 500 BC or 500 AD, and some of them are built in, 1984 or whatever. I mean, it's just... But, stay in line here. Singapore. Different view of it. Another building in Singapore. Slovakia. Also Slovakia. This one, if you get in closer, you can see it's got the four here and also the four back here. This is in South Korea. You can believe it. Two different buildings. Spain. There are hundreds upon hundreds, if not thousands of examples in Spain. And here's a few. Here's well up here. This is Sri Lanka, getting in on the action. St. Lucia, the island. Here's another one. This is on their government building. Sweden here as well. And you look at this and you wonder, see if this is not a more advanced model. If the ones in Alabama and some of the other ones we saw used to have these, and maybe they were removed. Sometimes you see things like this inside of the actual churches themselves, if they were taken off the top of the building. So, just food for thought. Switzerland, Taiwan, even. Look at that. Even Taiwan. How about that? And Tunisia. Also Tunisia, which tell me you expected that in a poverty-stricken area of Africa. Defies comprehension. Definitely defies historical narrative. But Turkey, and this is the United Kingdom. This as well. This as well. It's actually, I believe, in England. Somehow these got sorted. This is the United Kingdom as well. United Kingdom as well. For all of these, you can see how many different variations of this there are. No matter the height, no matter the use, the material, and even the structure. It is pretty telling to me, my mind. This, of course, being the Ukraine, and really a crappy example because there are hundreds. Uruguay, not to be left out here. And of course, the war-torn, what we are told is war-torn, poverty-stricken Venezuela. Vietnam, quite a surprise. Vietnam as well. And Virgin Island on St. Croix. St. Croix, Virgin Island. Pictures from before 1900. This one is in Wales, Scotland. These last few are just from Scotland. Even pre-photograph, this was a thing. This is in Thailand again. And so, what do you think? Think there's a little more to this than we're told? We're told really nothing about it other than that it means nothing. I find that hard to believe. This is the island of Madeira, by the way, in Africa. This is in Mozambique. This is in Nigeria, California, Rochester, New York, from coast to coast, Montreal, and on and on and on. This one, this terrible picture is in South Africa, you can't tell. There's an old one from 1900. This is South Korea. All these little fellows with their little hats. Super cute. And New York. This is from the island of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Also New York, this one. Also New York. This is Nebraska. This is Minneapolis. This is Iowa. Back to Australia. Prince Edward Island even. And one of the more patently ridiculous ones. This is Syracuse. Post office. This is a college in Western University, Canada. There's an old picture from Venezuela.
What do you see right now? Is this a bunch of old buildings to you? Does it look like something more? Let's take a rewind back to the 1850s, and today we look at Madrid in Spain. And there's a lot of peculiar photos, and there's a lot of weird stuff going on. And you can see there's just a lot of dirt. It's like a big open space, and there's not many people, but you have all these unbelievable buildings, and I mean an absolute unbelievable amount. Beautiful statues, beautiful monuments all around the city. And they're all built in the Greco-Roman style. But I find it interesting because it's so similar to all the other buildings around the world. And I tell you, I've stared at many beautiful places such as Dresden and Paris and on, but this one really takes the cake. And you see photos like this, and you say, well, maybe they were digging out the railroad tracks. Maybe they found them. What about this crazy chariot in the middle of the city? I mean, there's so many buildings, like this huge palace. And look who built it. Look how they're getting around. These covered wagons. I mean, it looks like people who just arrived. Look how big the doors are. Even the steps here seem to fade into the ground. So a lot of these buildings would very well be under the ground, like we've seen in many other cities. Another one from the 1850s. Just really weird stuff. And then you have all of these, what we consider antiquitech, all these antennas that come off the roofs. Here's another crazy picture. The more you look, the more you see, and the more you wonder. And you say, what is going on? You know, I was taught a certain history. I wasn't taught this. And every city you go to, you see more and more oddities. And more absolutely incredible, unbelievable buildings. And in Madrid, the list never ends. I could go on and on and on. And that's not even looking at the interiors. So once again, We have the same buildings everywhere else in the world, the same builders, the same trams, the same everything. What is going on? Why is the world so similar? And why does it always look like they're just starting out?
These cymatic plates show you sound in frequency and vibration visualized. You will find these beautiful cymatic patterns represented everywhere, but not just in nature, in the buildings of the old world. The past understood the technology of sound, the benefits of it with healing, the frequency and vibrations all too well. That is why the cathedrals represent them so clearly. These temples and cathedrals were places of sound healing. This is no coincidence from a people building these magnificent works with just supposed hammer and chisel. Cymatic architecture was at the backbone of all these old world structures, not just in the cathedrals, but the star forts as well. They understood how to tap into the natural frequency and vibrations and use them in so many benefits. They were one with this realm around us. To understand the true secrets of this realm, you must think in terms of frequency, energy, and vibrations. Question everything, friends. Until next time.
Now we have just scratched the surface. There is so much material on this topic, including hundreds of hours of pictures of incredible, unbelievable buildings that are demolished today. A few still remain. At some point, those buildings were everywhere. The super civilization that made them must have been huge, nothing like what we have been told in our history. The next part of the video is connected with the first part. It seems like the further back in time we go, the more advanced our constructions were, if we built them. Remember tales about giants and half-gods? If they existed at some point, I'm sure they would have built incredible buildings. My guess is that these buildings were built before the Great Flood. The buildings have clearly sunk 1 or 2 meters. They were not made with basements that could potentially compromise the structure with water during storms. After standing underwater for some time, the ground beneath softened, causing the buildings to sink. That's basic 4th grade math, in my opinion. Let's move on to the last part.
India is a place littered with incredible ancient yet unexplained ruins. Intricate ancient carvings can be found dotting the cliff faces. Seemingly laser-cut caves hewn from enormous rocks, and perhaps the most impressive of its collection, the rock temples hewn straight from bedrock, which can be found all over the country. We recently focused our attention on one of these sites in particular, perhaps the most impressive of these ancient temples. Known as Kailash, it is a structure drenched in sculpted animals and religious idols. Many others also exist, somehow carved straight out of stone hillsides. The accuracy in which these structures were carved, the refined finish achieved, has allowed these structures to evade explanation to this day. There is, in fact, another site within India, another temple, that, just like Kailash, was somehow hewn from a solid hillside. However, what is particularly interesting regarding this temple is that it was mysteriously abandoned, leaving the apparent different stages of its construction for all to see. Known as Vetivan Koil, it is located within Kalagumalai, a panchayat town in the South Indian state of Tamil Nadu. Intriguingly, upon the structure and the carved walls, which it is now framed by, is the same telltale chisel marks found at so many other sites around the world, an anomaly we have already covered in depth. However, what is particularly interesting regarding Vetivan Koil is the fact that these crude marks are also accompanied by the seemingly impossible perfect finished sculptures, which mystify all who peer at them to this day. It is a visual, chronological timeline cast in stone, possibly left by an as yet unknown people, using unexplained yet amazing artistic skills. The temple seemingly displays the methods used to carve it. The artist responsible crudely chiseled the design, presumably somehow from the mind's eye, then somehow professionally worked into the refined, astonishing art, which adorns so many of these ancient Indian structures. Who built Vetivan Koil? How did they achieve such perfection, with such hard stones, at such an early time in history? Is it, like academia would have you believe, a mere 1400 years old? Or is it a far more ancient structure, built using as yet unknown stone working techniques, used by an unknown group of artists? As research mounts surrounding such sites, the answers will inevitably be discovered.
The 16th century Kerala's temple, located within India, used to be the royal chapel of Travancore's former rulers. It shot to fame 5 years ago when one of its 6 vaults, later coded as A, was opened, unearthing tons of gold coins, jewelry, and diamonds worth hundreds of millions of dollars. An expert panel, inventorying assets at Kerala's famous Sri Padmanabhaswamy temple, has approached the Supreme Court for permission to open an as yet untouched vault, a vault containing unimaginable fortunes, a face-off between the judiciary and religious authorities. The temple, situated in the heart of India, is billed as the country's richest and is one of several Hindu shrines that hold enormous amounts of gold and precious gems. The wealth was accumulated by way of holy offering from devotees over many years. The temple contains 6 chambers buried deep under its sanctum sanctorum. 2 of them are open during daily rituals and 2 more every 6 months. The remaining 2, A and B, are secret vaults. Sources close to the temple said antique coins found in the chambers alone weighed more than 600 kilograms. Around 200,000 items were documented, 600 of which were embedded with precious gems. One single locket alone was believed to contain 997 gems. Besides jewels, precious stones, necklaces, golden crowns, and pots were also included in the list of inventory, sources said. According to the India Times, an audit conducted into the assets shows that a massive amount of gold has mysteriously disappeared. Up to 769 gold pots and silver bars have been reported missing, some suggesting that there are hidden tunnels beneath the chamber which allowed the architects to lock the chamber doors from within, making it impossible to breach. This secret tunnel seems to have led to many years of plundering the treasure trove without anyone noticing. However, what has not been publicly acknowledged by the Indian court is the existence of the hidden inner chamber beyond Vault B. Reported as having thick walls made from solid gold, and it is where the real treasure is said to be located. Dwarfing what has been recovered so far, it could quite possibly contain the largest undiscovered treasure in the history of the world. Not only is the temple covered in gold, it seems it is also stuffed full of the stuff also. An expert panel from the Center for Earth Science Studies has also quashed rumors that the B Vault has an underground tunnel connected to the Arabian Sea. The team led by Dr. Ajay Kumar Verma detected small cavities and drains around cellars that they found insignificant. Chamber B is not part of the temple's official treasury. The holy chamber houses idols of gods and many other valuables meant to enhance the potency of the principal deity. Also found was a pure golden throne adorned with hundreds of diamonds and fully precious stones, meant for the seating of a past giant that has been estimated around 18 feet in height. In addition, many other large, sometimes giant, and very old solid gold crowns were found, all studded with diamonds and other precious stones. The valuables are believed to have been accumulated in the temple's vaults over several thousand years, having been donated to the gods by various dynasties and kings. We will keep you posted on what they find in Vault B.
India is undoubtedly the jewel in the crown of ancient sculpture. And although Rome is home to the Renaissance, an attraction which lures enormous numbers of people there every year, India is unquestionably home to sculpture, which would put even the most efficient of the Italian masters to shame. However, conveniently, academia, and thus most of the modern world, overlook these astonishing feats of ancient art in favor of less controversial artistic wonders. One of our tried and tested methods of establishing whether an ancient artifact, or indeed an ancient ruin, attributed to a less capable, more modern imposter, is actually evidence of forgotten lost knowledge, is finding the puzzling accomplishments often hidden within the architecture or construction. One of the many examples of these is polygonal masonry. And although the modern man does indeed practice this lost art, a good example of this being found within the Cotswolds in the UK, known as Cotswold dry stone walling, once built and still used to mark out very ancient land boundaries, and amazingly, longer than the Great Wall of China. These very old walls, created without the use of mortar, are compelling examples of a fragmented technique, either borrowed or, possibly intriguingly, leftover memories of a now forgotten technology. And although these more modern attempts range in age stretching far into thousands of years, the lesser capability of the builders is clear for all to see. Our point being that when these ancient walls stretching far before the Romans are compared to Mesoamerica, Peruvian, and indeed ancient Indian ruins, the exquisite polygonal architecture, the precise carving and stone building present are clear, strong, controversial evidences of a forgotten civilization. How did these ancient builders acquire such a sophisticated knowledge and awareness of stone shapes, and the subsequent placement of each stone, perfectly placed against one another, forming impenetrable barriers which have stood the tests of the ages? We feel that regardless of what academia claims is the truth, pertaining to the origin and creators of these ancient wonders, the skills required to create them are thankfully beginning to become apparent to the majority rather than the few. This ancient, forgotten people clearly attained a level of stoneworking and construction knowledge we are yet to acquire. Clearly, a far more advanced and capable people than we are today, let alone the modern historical imposters academia claims as the culprits. We feel, regardless of others' claims, the evidence to suggest an intercontinental, highly advanced, technologically superior civilization once flourished here on our planet is highly compelling. While perusing the many perplexing sites we are yet to cover on our channel, we stumbled across something which could quite possibly be a massive clue, evidence left as to the method of construction of many ancient sites found all over Earth. Our channel has, for a long time, put forward the hypothesis that a highly advanced worldwide civilization once flourished here on our planet. We believe that many of the ancient sites which display unexplained architecture were left by this lost people, placed far within our distant past. And once one begins to investigate these ruins with this possibility in mind, you start to notice some compelling things regarding these amazing sites. For example, the metal clamps we have previously covered, often created using impressive mixes of alloys and somehow poured molten, could now be seen as earlier architectural examples less than the mortarless, mysteriously notched stonework, also found in similar areas all over the world, with the more precise and thus more impressive stonework seen as a later, more sophisticated method of construction. What's more, although virtually all ancient sites have been dated to the most convenient suspects within known taught history, there also exists the numerous caves and temples, hewn from the solid bedrocks, carved with such accuracy and vision, they elude recreation even by our modern-day technology. And while looking at an amazing rock-cut cave within the site of Mamallapuram, India, a site we are now convinced was left by this same civilization, a curious piece of evidence seemingly presented itself. Upon the roughly finished roof of this ancient cave is evidence left by the same technology used to not only cut the astonishingly huge Longyu caves, but also the abandoned Langshan quarry, both in China. This discovery, we believe, is only just the beginning of a realization that these telltale signatures are present at many other unexplained sites around the world. We have long stipulated that many of the ancient ruins claimed by our more modern-day ancestors are most likely not their actual creations. If the structure does date to this more recent age, they are usually found to be sitting upon the telltale remnants of a highly precise ancient foundation, originally left by this elusive group. Who were these amazing people? When did they flourish here on Earth? What happened to them? Why did they never record how they created such wonders? Although it is easy for skeptics to argue that the caves and architecture were merely created through excruciating hard labor, any practical demonstration of this has eluded us for many centuries. Furthermore, many of the extensive cave excavations found all over the world, presumably dating back to this bygone age, are all absent any waste, as if the machine tasked with creating these underground labyrinths turned stone to dust. And although the technology and/or possible machinery tasked with the job has evaded modern archaeology to this point, it is clearly another piece of evidence which takes us one step closer to unraveling the true history of our planet. Just how old is human civilization? It should be clear to anyone who has spent any length of time perusing our channel that the majority of our antiquity, no matter how astonishing, is, according to modern academia, all built by our less capable ancestors, placed considerably more recently within human history. During our extensive research, we have often unearthed overwhelming evidence for an immensely larger human timeline. Additionally, we feel there is strong evidence to suggest that more than one period of prosperity has been experienced in the past. We have realized that this record of past global inhabitancy is merely limited to its resistance to erosion. Put another way, there appears that many past civilizations have come and gone, going back beyond what is now still in existence. The human species, it seems, has outlived the existence of our oldest ruins here on Earth. Many ruins we have explored are now argued as geological formations. This authoritative subjection is merely testament to their immense age, and also begs the question what other ruins may have been lost to erosion. How much older does human civilization actually reach back in time? And just how advanced have past civilizations become? One clue to this answer lays within the ruins themselves. Astonishing feats of engineering that not only indicate a high level of intelligence, but also technological prowess. Extraordinarily refined works, which can still be found in the less inhospitable environments of Earth. One of these lesser shared sites is undoubtedly Varangal. Located within the South Indian state of Telangana, it was predictably once snapped up by our less capable ancestors, possibly claimed as their own, subsequently becoming their capital. Home of the Kakatiya dynasty from the 12th to 14th centuries, this inhabitation, we feel, has then been used regardless of the ancient ruins in question to age the stone carvings which can be found at the site. Stone monuments carved with such accuracy, skill, and precision that they evade any logical explanation as to how they could have been completed with any of the technologies we know were available to the Kakatiyans, specifically within the 12th century. The site clearly demonstrates tremendous skill and also technological prowess. These stone monuments were clearly not only created to express an artistic message, but they were undoubtedly created to display the creator's capabilities, encapsulated in time, quite possibly for the exact purpose of people like us to recognize them, as they may have with similar ruins that were possibly in existence during their own lifetimes. There is a greatly more interesting and extensively larger story to tell regarding the history of our planet. However, as long as those in power feel inadequate simply saying, "We don't know," ignorance and lies will continue to plague our species.
We've often put forward the premise that within our very distant past, a cataclysm occurred, or more precisely, a great flood. Many surviving ancient sites around the world bear the scars of this event. The Great Pyramids of Giza, for example, still held chambers flooded with ancient seawater deep within their bowels until very recently. Much of this evidence slowly removed over the past few decades. And our next ancient structure is no different. Known as Adam's Bridge, it is an astonishing feature which stretches 30 kilometers, connecting southern India with Sri Lanka, believed to date from a pre-Diluvian age, some 1.7 million years ago. Several individuals who have taken the time to explore this ancient ruin have concluded that it is indeed artificial. However, with a dating of over 1.5 million years, it is clearly a site that academia will continue to reject as actually being man-made, regardless of the mounting data in favor of such a reality. It seems that regardless of the overwhelming evidence that the mountain of unexplained accomplishments by our quote, primitive ancestors, modern scholars of many subjects continue an existence in complete denial of these truths. Dr. Bhadra Narayanan, former director of the Geological Survey within India, performed an in-depth analysis of the suspected bridge's makeup. His research concluded that the Adam's Bridge was indeed an artificial man-made structure, one which stretches far back into the unknown history of our planet. Below the surface, they found organized layers of sandstone blocks, coral boulders, and other cement-like substances. Several divers investigated the length of the bridge and concluded that its entire layout was indeed of an organized and thus artificial nature. The survey also revealed extremely ancient evidence of intense quarrying was also left within the surrounding area, these materials matching those placed carefully within the causeway itself. Interestingly, ancient Hindu legend from the area agrees that this enormous feature is indeed a now submerged, gigantic earthwork, stating that it was built for the god Rama in order to help him cross the land to the large island, to rescue his beloved from a demon. Is Adam's Bridge really a huge pre-Diluvian sunken artifact? A 30-kilometer man-made bridge which once connected the two countries? It's an amazing proposition, and the more we learn about the amazing history which was lost here on our planet, the more it seems like a real possibility. Thanks for watching, guys, and until next time, take care.
Many inventions found throughout the world have their origins set in the Far East. Many machines that different nations claim as their own can often be found to have primitive traces of development many centuries earlier within China, and our next artifact is no exception. Dating back over 2,000 years, this rare and enigmatic piece of once very high technology can only be seen as a demonstration of their superior ingenuity. It seems the invention of the first seismoscope can be traced back to 132 AD, when a Chinese inventor called Chang Heng perfected a device remarkably accurate at detecting earthquakes, even from afar. Although the ancient Chinese did not fully understand the cause of earthquakes, they did see it as very important to keep track of such events, perceiving these disturbances with cosmic yin and yang. It was, therefore, important for the Chinese emperor to be alerted of any earthquakes occurring anywhere in their kingdom. Chang's ingenious seismoscope was almost 6 feet across and made of solid bronze, decorated with 8 dragons marking compass directions. Within each dragon's mouth was a small bronze ball, and beneath sat 8 bronze toads. A mechanism within would somehow detect an earthquake occurring in the distance. This would then cause a ball to drop out of one of the 8 dragons' mouths. What is fascinating regarding Chang's invention is the fact that no one seems to be able to figure out for a certainty how it worked. One theory is that a thin stick set loosely down the center of the barrel. When an earthquake occurred, a stick would topple over in the direction of the seismic shock. According to legend, when Chang first showed his invention to the emperor, it indicated that a quake had occurred to the west of Luoyang, the capital city at the time. A few days later, a messenger from the region arrived reporting that there had indeed been an earthquake there, around the time Chang's machine had indicated. When specialists first realized what the machine was, they struggled to believe that this 2,000-year-old invention could actually work. So, in 2005, scientists in Zhengzhou, China used it to detect several earthquakes. The seismoscope detected all of them. In fact, the data gathered from this 2,000-year-old machine corresponded with that gathered by modern-day seismometers. a marvelous machine left to us by a once ingenious civilization. Osaka Castle, one of the most important historical structures in Japan, having played a defining role in unifying Japan during the 16th centuries. It is a structure whose enigmatic characteristics we have covered in the past. The main tower of Osaka Castle, situated on a plot of land roughly 1 square kilometer in diameter, is built atop 2 raised platforms, supported by sheer walls of cut rock created using a technique called burdock piling. With some of these wall faces also containing compelling precision ancient stonework, a feature we initially focused on in our previous video. However, there also exists other intriguing anomalies within the grounds of the castle, a series of stoneworks of gigantic proportions. Enormous walls, which many of you may not be aware of, rarely shared by academia. These sections were created with polygonal masonry techniques, a method of advanced block building unexplained, subsequently lost to the eons. Due to their unexplained nature, these hidden features, we believe, are clear evidence of an original structure, far outdating the modern castle and indeed attested historical accounts. Yet what is undoubtedly the most striking characteristic of these surviving barriers is their size. Many of the surviving blocks, each of a unique shape, were once masterfully placed, seemingly effortlessly atop one another with incredible precision, stones stretching far into the hundreds of tons. This astonishing feat of ancient engineering, utilizing blocks of gargantuan sizes, is also present at many other ancient sites throughout the world. It is not only indicative of a lost, advanced, highly capable civilization, but the question as to how they managed to cut, move, and eventually place such enormous weighted stones with such precision remains a baffling mystery yet to be unraveled. Furthermore, there not only exists astonishingly huge polygonal masonry within the grounds, but there also still exists mysterious carved stones in and around the grounds of Osaka Castle. Perplexing megalithic stones, unquestionably carved for a past purpose, which possibly, due to their immense size, are the sole surviving remnants of other ancient features, now nearly all but eroded away. As such, their past function is now unknown. Yet, regardless of these unanswered questions, we maintain a hypothesis that, like the many other astonishing ancient ruins found on differing continents, for example, Baalbek, the Great Pyramids, Sacsayhuaman, Kulap, etc., that due to these sites' characteristics, specifically the immense size of the stonework involved in their original construction, and thus their once impenetrable nature, were utilized by a later civilization, and Osaka Castle being no exception, built upon a foundation far older than modern academia would ever willingly admit to. The fact that no modern explanation exists pertaining to how these gigantic megaliths came to be placed where they are found today, in addition to an absent understanding or explanation as to how polygonal masonry was completed, especially with such enormous quarried stones, we feel is strong evidence to support our posit that the foundations of these ancient structures are far older than their current dating. Foundations which were almost definitely the work of a past highly capable civilization, responsible for all the other as yet unexplainable ancient wonders found around the globe. The question is, who were these ancient builders? How did they move such massive stones? Did they utilize technologies reminiscent of modern-day lifting equipment? Were all of these ancient structures built by the same governing force, with the slight variations present from location to location only as a result of the different cultures who were responsible for the actual undertaking? Was this knowledge of highly advanced ancient building techniques shared worldwide? If this is the case, it is a strong indicator that most of what academia continues to peddle as a complete timeline of man is vastly inaccurate and missing vast chapters of past development. Where did this highly advanced group go? Why are there so many quarries and indeed unfinished ancient megaliths found all over the world, spanning as far as the notoriously remote island of Easter, all seemingly abandoned abruptly? Did this civilization fall victim to cataclysm? Or perhaps their fate was far more transcendental? Regardless of these unanswered questions regarding their final destination, we feel Osaka Castle is undoubtedly yet another example of extraordinary ancient feats of prehistoric engineering by a group we are yet to fully understand, and as such is undoubtedly highly compelling. There are many aspects of ancient ruins which can indicate a far more advanced, technologically capable constructor than are currently academically attested. Massive, seemingly impossibly huge megalithic blocks precisely placed within their constructions. Advanced weight-bearing architecture that could have only been understood by a civilization with a far more knowledgeable set of building strategies than those claimed as the culprit, our own well-studied, more recent ancestors. Precision tool marks that could have only been left by high-rotating precision machinery, etched and worked into notoriously hard stones such as granite, that thanks to its erosion resistance still possess these clear evidential scars left by these enigmatic machines, leaving us to ponder and academia to ignore. Mysterious alignments, often created using enormous stones that, according to the history books, were placed by groups of ancestors who simply couldn't have known these precise precision alignments, let alone worship them with such megalith stonework. Metal clamps used the world over to latch these enormous blocks together, used by a mysterious civilization who were somehow aware of the fact that these stones would shift as the years went on. With many of these clamps cast into place, this hypothesis, supported by the evidence of vitrification upon the surface of the stonework, strong evidence of a civilization that had mastered the control of immense heats, reminiscent of modern-day refineries, with the rare example of a massive oupart, like the giant glass Beth Shearim slab, further supporting this past mastery of extreme temperature refinement. Yet, the most notable and most numerous proof of this past lost civilization, and indeed their forgotten technology, is polygonal masonry. With some of this stonework clearly of such a great antiquity that it is slowly losing its recognizable form. One of these forgotten sites is Ori Castle, found deep within the forests of Japan. Located on Shiroyama Mountain, it was named after its supposed builder, Mitsutada Ori, who was the leader of a clan also named after him, the Ori clan. Ori and his clan originally stemmed from the Toki clan, but once expelled from their land and left to wander, Mitsutada recovered their land in 1536 and supposedly built a new castle on the mountain. However, due to the as yet unexplained polygonal masonry and also its clearly incredible age, we tend to believe that Mitsutada merely rediscovered this fortress within the forests on the mountains and used them to regain a foothold within the area, thus naming the castle after his efforts. The true age of the castle, we feel, is unknown, although we strongly suspect that it predates many of the other anomalous polygonal masonry that can be found within Japan, such as the foundations of Osaka Castle, an astonishing group of features we have covered previously. However, due to the sheer age of the ruin of Ori Castle, the stonework has eroded to such a degree that it takes a keen eye and a few years of practice to be able to identify it as having once been the same level of precise polygonal masonry as that found elsewhere within Japan. Who built Ori Castle? Was it really abandoned mid-build as academia claims? Or was it, like we postulate, simply left to ruin, a relic of a now forgotten civilization, left to simply erode away, eventually to a point where geology will argue it away as a mere natural formation. We find Ori Castle, and indeed the many other enigmatic sites to be found within Japan, quietly kept away from curious minds throughout the world, as undoubtedly highly compelling. My mission upon this channel is to provide details regarding ancient ruins, artifacts, and technologies that clearly demonstrate that there once existed lost, ancient, advanced civilizations that have been lost here upon our planet. My unwavering research dynamic is that said subject matter is crucially factual. Thus, it is always based upon that which I have personally sought to confirm as undeniable realities before sharing. I do not only offer an intellectual armory for you, the viewer, who is often confronted with many academic fallacies, but particularly the younger viewer, enabling their empowerment to correct academics, often ordered to pass on such fallacies through a permitted curriculum. As such, I feel that it is crucial that not only are the facts I share established proofs, but that features which they explain away as others' work are established as beyond doubt as currently unexplainable, as such undeniable as the work of others. Exposing academia's lies due to our ancestors' limitations, ancestors often claimed as the constructors of said ruins found throughout the world. Due to this bestowed responsibility to only convey historical accuracies, established mystery, and ancestral limitations, many independent researchers often privately contact me via my secure armored email, often sharing not only their own controversial research, sometimes including their own expedition details, but also academics in positions of tremendous public influence, who not only share my view that much of the history currently being taught to future generations is not only inaccurate, but is based upon a conspiracy of concealing past civilizations. One such email received recently pertained to something known as the moon shaft. However, although this is not the main theme of this particular video, I will briefly cover what has been shared with me, and after further research, endeavor to do a detailed video in the future regarding said explorations if enough evidence of its existence can be established. Sent to me by Mike Collins, a member of an unsuccessful expedition to try to rediscover this mysterious layer. A brief prologue is as follows, quote, "3 soldiers hiding from the Germans in the Tatra Mountains in Slovakia discovered a layer which could possibly be the oldest man-made structure in the world. The structure is believed to be between 300 and 310 million years old by a number of individuals, with Heinrich Himmler even sending several scientific expeditions into the Tatra Mountains looking for the shaft, with members of the KGB also attempting to obtain the diary writings on the experience from these deceased soldiers." End quote. Although compelling, I am reluctant to cover this story yet, due to a lack of any physical evidence, regardless of the considerable lengthy testimonies that pertain to its existence. I intend to invest some time in researching it further myself first. However, tonight's subject originates far away from the supposed moon shaft in China. Ancient star maps of such accuracy and range that due to currently attested academic understandings of the history, they simply should not have possessed such knowledge, let alone been able to accurately illustrate it upon parchment, known as the Dunhua star chart. The chart is the first accurate graphical representation of star locations within ancient Chinese astronomy, and it is of nearly every star across the atlas. According to modern academia, it is dated to the Tang dynasty between 618 and 907. Although I feel this is actually a copy of charts of a far earlier age, and thus of a far earlier, far more capable civilization. Before this map, much of the star information mentioned in historical Chinese texts was drastically inaccurate. However, this map provides a graphically precise verification of star observations and are part of a series of charts all known as the Dunhua manuscripts. It seems, however, in an attempt to quell the curiosity of the astute among us, considerable funding has been funneled into constructing an excuse for its existence. This funded project is known as the International Dunhua Project, with much of the research and indeed exclusive access to the maps solely granted to these academics, which I believe is an attempt to convolute their importance. However, regardless of these tremendous efforts, there are many features of the map which remain unexplainable. Compelling evidence of them being Chinese copies of knowledge left over by a past, vastly more advanced civilization. Copies of elusive manuscripts that at some point within Chinese antiquity were most probably found preserved somewhere. First, the Dunhua star map is to date the world's oldest complete preserved star atlas, meaning that before the ancient Chinese were even a seafaring civilization, they somehow had access to knowledge of the accurately plotted star charts of both hemispheres. Additionally, the main image, which many presume is the entire Dunhua star chart, an insinuation implied by Wikipedia, is only a small fraction of the collection. Yet this piece in itself is an exact, accurate plotting of polar constellations. And due to these ancient Chinese people being incapable of such tremendous voyages, not only does the advanced knowledge copied down upon these charts strongly support my posit of them being a rediscovered, copied relic of a past civilization's knowledge. These copies were found in the early 1900s in a walled-up cave containing a cache of manuscripts. They were discovered by Chinese Taoist Wang Yuanlu in a cave system known as the Mojiao Caves. Although the scroll with the star chart was found amongst those documents by Aurel Stein when he visited and examined the content of the cave in 1907. One of the first public mentionings of these script in Western studies was from Joseph Needham's 1959 version of the book Science and Civilization in China. Since that time, however, only a few publications have conveniently been devoted to the map, nearly all being Chinese publications. This map, or as we postulate, accurate copy, was made around the year 700. I feel their lack of public exposure and my reasoning for asserting that they were copies of a far more advanced civilization's work is not only due to the Chinese civilization's inability to travel to such locations to plot such charts at the time, but that the whole set of star maps contains over 1,300 stars, not only proving that although the Chinese are academically claimed to have believed the world was flat at the time, the star charts prove beyond doubt that they had knowledge of constellations from around the globe. The academic explanation for this is that although the Chinese supposedly presumed the world was flat, they somehow assumed that the heavens were somehow spherical, which to me just seems like a desperate attempt to discredit such manuscripts' true origins. I believe, due to the in-depth and accurate knowledge copied upon the star charts, much of which were far out of the reach of this ancient civilization's observational capabilities, be clear proof that they had discovered maps left by a civilization that was not only seafaring but global. Also, due to the chart featured on Wikipedia, had successfully explored the poles and accurately mapped its constellations. How did the ancient Chinese have such in-depth knowledge of so many constellations, especially polar constellations? We find such manuscripts, academia's funneling of considerable funding into the discrediting of their inexplicable nature and their lack of exposure, as highly compelling.
War is coming.
Ta vare på pH-balansen i underlivet med Asan intimprodukter.
Bosda Cave, within modern-day Turkey, is unquestionably an astonishing place. An enormous cave system that many people simply assume is a natural formation, with select areas quarried out, subsequently used to build numerous ruins throughout the area. However, what many people have seemingly overlooked, and we presume funded academics have deliberately ignored, are the signatures left all over the stonework throughout the network of caverns. strongly indicating that this huge complex was once, somehow, hewn by ancient man. Also, and perhaps most intriguingly, is that this task was completed using a number of different advanced tools, whose marking, thanks to ours and others' astute research, has also been found scarred upon many other ancient sites, some located far away from this enigmatic cave system. The stone, once quarried out to create this enormous cavern, subsequently located as having been used to create a number of remarkable precision-cut monuments, including a once existing wall which surrounded an ancient site known as Hairan. Additionally, due to the realization of this quarried stone having been used in Hairan, in addition to our own previous research, we have successfully linked Bazda to yet more ancient ruins, all dated to vastly different eras within history. Thanks to our channel's creator possessing a photographic memory, we have correlated undeniable characteristic similarities, connecting many of these ancient sites throughout the world. Firstly, the signatures left by advanced stone-cutting technologies, tool marks left upon the cave system's walls. Scars upon the stonework, which are present at many other sites, Baalbek in Lebanon, Petra in Jordan, Yangshan Quarry within China, and at least 2 rock-cut monuments within India, the roof of a precision-cut cave, and an unfinished temple known as Veduvan Koil. This crescent-shaped scarring, often of an overlapping fashion, we feel is reminiscent of scars left by modern-day tunnel boring equipment. Yet due to the lack of in-depth research surrounding such anomalies, with these tool marks, as far as we are aware, only receiving limited attention at Baalbek and merely photographed at Yangshan, have begun to name such markings ourselves in an effort to categorize and identify such curiosities being discovered worldwide, with these now known to us as crescent cup and ring marks. The second form of scarring, found upon much of the cave's roof, now known to us as groove and ridge markings, are distinctly different in form and appearance to the crescent cup and ring marks. These rows of grooved scars, however, are identical to those found in plain sight upon the unfinished obelisk located within Aswan Quarry, Egypt. A stone monument well over 1,000 tons in weight, which has long been academically argued as having been abandoned where it lay, due to a fault line discovered during the quarrying process. However, interestingly, others have presented strong evidence that this crack appeared later within history. A fellow alternative researcher, Chris Dunn, argues within his book Advanced Technology in Ancient Egypt that the crack happened later on in the obelisk's life, and that the monolith was abandoned before the fault appeared. Backing up his claim, he shows that details upon the monument were being engraved over the top of the location of the fault line, an undertaking that would have clearly been illogical. Although he does not put forward a postulation as to why this crack occurred, we believe it may have been due to a shift in the surrounding geography, more than likely a ground-shifting earthquake, not only cracking the obelisk, but possibly due to and accompanied by a cataclysmic event, which quite possibly caused the demise of the civilization, who were liberating the obelisk, thus leaving it unfinished. But I digress. Our focus is upon the scars left by enigmatic, clearly advanced stone-cutting tools, preserved with clarity upon the erosion-resistant granite of the obelisk. These exact markings also undeniably litter the ceiling of the Bazda cave. Additionally, these groove and ridge marks are also found upon the megalithic, often polygonal stonework within Peru, at Cusco, the fortress of Sacsayhuaman, and Machu Picchu, to name but a few. The third set of signature scarring upon the cave stone walls links Bosda Cave to another, similarly gigantic, artificially created cave system, known as Longyu Caves, located within China. Once an undoubtedly immense excavation, yet the quarried stone from this undertaking has never been located. Millions of tons of stone seemingly vanished from the face of the earth. However, thankfully, the quarried stone from the Bosda cave systems, as mentioned, was utilized and located. However, the civilization responsible for shaping these quarried stones at Haran were unquestionably responsible for several other sites found around the world. YouTube channel New Earth, first linking these curiously shaped stones to Nimrod's fortress on Mount Hermon with Jerash in Jordan, with us continuing this trail of connecting ancient dots, thankfully due to the uniqueness of stonework.
Let's compare the Nimrod fortress with this historic city in Jordan, which according to mainstream sources was conquered by the Romans, and they built their typical Roman architecture consisting of columns and so on the top of the older ruins. So here they are assuring us that the Nimrod style large blocks are pre-Roman. Now, those very same blocks, when they are in Baalbek, they are telling us it's Roman. In the Temple Mount, they are again assuring us that they are some 2000 years old. In Bosnia, they are telling us they are whatever, 3 or more thousand years old, and of course they are built by some obscure, unknown tribe, of which even the name they had to fabricate.
Enabling us to link the Royal Kurgan in Crimea to New Earth's discoveries, and now to the ancient ruins of Haran in Turkey. Not only can we argue that this cave system was indeed man-made, but is the only site we know of that possesses such an array of these enigmatic stone-cutting technology scars, allowing us to successfully link it to at least 15 ancient sites around the world. The cave itself, Basran, Haran, Baalbek, Petra, Jerash, Yangshan, Longyu, Vetivankoil, Malmala Param, Cusco, Sacsayhuaman, and Machu Picchu, Nimrod's fortress, and the Royal Kurgan. Possibly many others we are yet to recognize. In conclusion, the vast array of different, as yet unidentified, advanced stone-cutting equipment scars present within the cave, each leaving its own unique signature upon the stone. The shaping of these stones, unique to an unknown civilization's signature handiwork, found worldwide, used within an array of as yet unexplained ruins, academically claimed to be of vastly different ages and the work of vastly different.
Many ancient sites found scattered all over the planet share an enigmatic feature. A pattern of scarring left upon their megalithic blocks and often upon their walls, once left by a technology built by an as yet not understood civilization. We've previously covered the perplexing technique often used by ancient wall builds, found all around the world in the form of mysterious metal clamps. Used to seat huge stone blocks as they settled over the following years, these clamps, dated to similar times within antiquity and varying in style from continent to continent, somehow turned up all over the world at around the same time, strongly suggesting some form of intercontinental travel and thus sharing of technologies. Furthermore, and perhaps more intriguing, are the links that we, here on the channel, along with others in alternative research, and even funded institutes from nations around the world, have begun to notice and hopefully triangulate a signature left by this once highly advanced group of individuals. The most noticeable of these sites, and the one which initially started us upon this journey, was Longyu Cave in China. A cave system hewn from solid bedrock, leaving no waste piles of stone anywhere, marking the stone with a telltale scar pattern. These parallel marks are not just found at Longyu. Similar yet not identical marks have also been found elsewhere on Earth. A slight variation in style is what one would expect with shared knowledge. As with the metal clamps, a slight variation can be found from continent to continent. These similar marks can also be found at the ancient quarry of Yangshan, China, and Petra in Jordan, both argued for years to actually be the workmanship of a civilization far older than any noted within modern academia. These marks were then discovered to be upon the ceiling of Cave 1 at the ancient site of Mamallapuram within India, another site which in places shows levels of erosion far in excess of that which should be seen at a site dated within known history. Yet perhaps the most impressive of these marks, and most probably the ones made by the conceptual machine of origin, are the scars witnessed and now subsequently catalogued at Baalbek. These are far too large for any hand tool, made into solid granite with such precision. These also display circular motions, as if left by a modern-day tunnel boring machine. This evidence, undoubtedly unnoticed upon many more ancient sites, is clearly compelling evidence to support our channel's hypothesis that a mysterious history once occurred here on our planet, and will hopefully shed some light on the amazing people responsible for this phase of our past. Thanks for watching, guys, and until next time, take care.
There are a number of artifacts, which can still be found all over the Earth, that are extremely hard for modern academia to explain, using their popularly attested and often regurgitated views regarding chronological timelines of the developments of man. Most of these surviving objects are locked away within the collections of wily individuals, people aware of the many other such artifacts which have been found, stolen, and never seen again. These guardians of the artifacts have often encountered attempted robberies, switch tactics, and often offered large sums of money to allow these artifacts to just simply vanish. Yet fortunately, many still cling to existence thanks to a handful of individuals guided by a moral duty to share them with the world. And our next artifact could be seen as such an object. Known as the Dashka Stone, it is a controversial artifact that it is believed by some to be the guidelines used by the quote, architect of the world. Also known as the Map of the Creator, the Dashka Stone tablet has baffled researchers since its discovery in 1999, and as impossible as it may seem, a number of specialist Russian experts, after in-depth analysis of the stone, have concluded that it is indeed a stone map that is as much as 120 million years old. Created from a bird's-eye view, presumably from space, the Dashka slabs depicts in detail the peaks and valleys of the Ural Mountains. Although mainstream academia will simply deny the possibility of the Dashka's true purpose and indeed age, many who have researched, mapped, and analyzed the slab have concluded that it is indeed somehow authentic and well over 100 million years old. Initially discovered by archaeologists from the Bashkir State University, it was actually found within the Ural Mountains of eastern Russia. Researchers were understandably stunned when they realized that the tablet displayed a highly accurate topographical map of Bashkiria, a specific area of the Ural Mountains, at a scale of approximately 1 inch to 1 kilometer. The map of the creator also retains clues to its artificial origins within its structure, comprised of 3 layers, each of which strongly suggesting to geologists that it did not originate in nature, but was indeed artificially created deep within antiquity. The first layer is roughly 7 inches of a primitive cement-ceramic compound. The second layer is roughly 1 inch thick, made of diopside glass, enriched with silicon, and the third layer, a mere few millimeters thick, is made of a calcium porcelain mixture. Who created the Dashka slab? Did they really create it over 120 million years ago, like many specialists have reluctantly become convinced is the case? It is unquestionably a remarkable object, and one which deserves a lot more attention.
That there was once an advanced race of humans, which were in worldwide communication with one another. Many methods for building, religious figures, and even legends have managed to cross the oceans of Earth over its long life. But the most compelling evidence for this intelligent and extremely advanced ancient civilization is the alignments discovered in regards to ancient sites. With the use of modern technology, we have unraveled just how vast their knowledge must have been. For example, the Great Pyramid is aligned with Machu Picchu, the Nazca Lines and Easter Island along a straight line around the center of the Earth, with a margin of error of less than 1/10 of 1 degree. Other sites of ancient construction that are also within 1/10 of 1 degree of this line include the capital city of ancient Persia, the ancient capital city of the Indus Valley, the once lost city of Petra, the ancient Sumerian city of Ur, and the temples at Angkor Wat, among many others which are just out of alignment. Many ancient ruins demonstrate that the people who constructed them had a special interest in celestial alignments and mathematics. Also, that they possessed a spot-on ability of judging geographical accuracies. From north to south, there is no doubt that past civilizations were involved in incredibly complex calculations and architecture. In Giza, for instance, there are many examples of attention to spatial coordinates. The Great Pyramid's faces are aligned with the 4 cardinal directions almost perfectly. In fact, they are less than 0.2 of a degree off perfect alignment. More and more evidence is also surfacing in regards to the suspected use of power tools. Numerous drill marks have been discovered within ancient sites over the past few years, even including evidence of misstarts from some form of high-powered tool, and accidentally split stones apparently from some form of drilling. These discoveries not only confirm a past advanced ancient civilization here on Earth, but insinuates that they were in fact aware of electrical appliance, and maybe even an advanced form of travel that we have yet to discover. The floor space of the Great Pyramid of Giza is approximately 3,023 feet, and the height is 481 feet. Its measurements represent the northern hemisphere of the Earth, on a scale of 1 to 43,200ths. Though controversial, some interpret this number as exactly 20 times the precessional number of 2,160, representing the precession of the Earth through 20 different zodiac constellations. Interestingly, the ancient Mayan culture was also heavily implicated within the alignment, a civilization who displayed advanced celestial knowledge, including a deep fascination with the ages of the zodiac, with a life calendar ending around the beginning of Aquarius. Another intriguing alignment is the 6,666-kilometer mystery. The distance between various monuments: Kailash to the North Pole, Kailash to Stonehenge, Egyptian pyramids to the North Pole, Stonehenge to Devil's Tower, Stonehenge to Bermuda Triangle, Bermuda Triangle to Easter Island, and Easter Island to Tazumal, are all at a precisely 6,666 kilometers from one another.